Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and while we're all awaiting Apple's One More Thing event, which takes place on Tuesday, November 10th, we have not only learned a lot more about what specific Macs will be updated for that event, but also what the future of the Apple Silicon Mac lineup will potentially look like, and even some more performance leaks of just how powerful Apple Silicon Macs are going to be. So for this video, let's first go over what Macs we can expect for the end of 2020, and then talk about some of the Apple Silicon Macs we might see coming sometime in 2021, including a half-sized Mac Pro. Now, a lot of this reporting comes from Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg, who, I must remind all of you, has an excellent track record, and I'll leave a full article in the description if you want to learn even more. But Gurman is saying that Apple is currently working on 3 new laptops to show off at their Apple Silicon event. The first 2 that will be shown off at the event, like I told you in my previous video, is the Apple Silicon 13-inch MacBook Pro and the Apple Silicon 13-inch MacBook Air. Again, like I mentioned in my previous videos, and I'll try and keep it shorter here, these are expected to have the same exact design as the current generation, and the focus on these new Macs will not be anything to do with the design, but the insides and the benefits that Apple Silicon will bring to them. Benefits like better battery life of anywhere of 50 to 100% gains, or in more human terms, 15 to 20 hours of battery life. Also, because Apple Silicon will use lower wattage chips, the thermals inside of these laptops should also be much better and well fine-tuned with Apple's custom hardware and software, meaning the days of screaming jet engine MacBooks might be a thing of the past. But besides better efficiency, we have been wondering for quite some time what kind of performance we might see out of these new Apple Silicon Macs, and it's no secret that Apple has already accomplished amazing feats of engineering with the iPads and iPhones, especially on these recent A14 chips, which have blazing fast performance that is faster than not only a lot of the laptops on the market right now, but that come in a compact footprint of a phone and a thin and light tablet. Now, even though MacBooks are more portable, you have to realize that there's still way more room inside of these machines. So one of the big questions I had, and I think many of you have had, is what kind of performance gains we can expect in a full-size laptops without the normal constraints that Apple has had to manage inside of a mobile device. Well, we may be closer to finding that out because some Geekbench scores have leaked that are starting to show off why Apple decided to switch to their own custom chips. So apparently this is a leaked Geekbench 5 scores based on the A14X processor, and you can see we get a single core score of 1634 and a multi-core score of 7220. Now, benchmarks are just benchmarks, but they do give us some indication of possible performance gains, and if we compare it against what is currently available on the Mac lineup, you can see not only is the A14X inside of these Apple Silicon Macs outscoring single-core performance on even the highest-end desktop-class Mac, but they are also outscoring the last 16-inch MacBook Pro in multi-core performance. Think about that for a second. The benchmark we are seeing is likely from a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and already we are seeing performance gains that would put it above Apple's biggest, most expensive laptop, the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Now, the big question that I have is, will Apple have multiple processor options for these Macs, or will they just ship one option? I'm really leaning towards that there will just be one processor option for these Mac laptops, and that just like iPads and iPhones, you can choose a different size computer, but at the end of the day, they will share the same processor, meaning that potentially the 13 and 16-inch MacBook Pro might be able to eke out the same performance. I do, however, think that Apple will have different classes of chips for their desktop lineup, so a separate laptop chip and then their separate desktop class chip. But there you go. What we will first possibly see on Tuesday is a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro, both with what look like some pretty great performance gains coming out of that A14X processor. Not only that, we're also hearing from this report that there might be another model shown off besides these two 13-inch models, with Mark Gurman saying that Apple is also working on a 16-inch MacBook Pro with Apple Silicon and that it is already in the stages of being assembled. However, he does note that the 13-inch MacBook Pro is apparently ahead of schedule, so we may get the 13-inch versions released and maybe have to wait a bit longer for the 16-inch MacBook Pro, but there is a possibility that they will show it off at the event. Now, this is really interesting because we haven't heard about a Apple Silicon 16-inch MacBook Pro in any of the rumors before, so I was not expecting an update so soon. But like I said before, Gurman has a great track record, and it looks like Apple is planning to update every laptop in their lineup first. So they're putting the focus on their laptops. Now, while those are the first Apple Silicon Macs we can expect, and possibly all of them will be shown off at this event, there's even more Apple Silicon Macs on the horizon with their desktop lineup, again, according to Mark Gurman. In this list, he includes our long-held suspicions that Apple is working on a redesigned iMac. Like I mentioned in previous videos, this would be an iMac redesign with slimmer bezels and maybe resemble the design language of what we are currently seeing on the iPad Pro, but obviously with a much bigger 24-inch display. Gurman is also saying that Apple is working on an update to the Mac Pro. The Mac Pro in question apparently looks like the current model that Apple is selling, but will be about half the size. In this Bloomberg article, it's unclear if this will be a complete replacement for the Mac Pro or if this will just be a second additional model to sell alongside of it, as the current Mac Pro is partly bigger in size because it can fit even more components inside of it, like bigger, higher-end graphics cards. Now, this is the first we've heard of an Apple Silicon Mac Pro. Even though the details are relatively slim, I consider it good news because there was a big question out there if Apple would even continue to make a high-end desktop with these super power-efficient mobile ARM CPUs. So even though information is slim right now, if you were planning on buying a Mac Pro sometime in the future and you were worried about them going away, it's good to know that Apple plans to keep making these pro-grade machines and keep them in the lineup. Finally, Mark Gurman also expects a Mac Mini sooner rather than later, so maybe that potentially will also be ready by the end of this year or early 2021. This makes a lot of sense when you consider that the developer machines that Apple gave to developers this year was a Mac Mini running on the A12Z processor. So if anything, the Mac Mini would probably be the easiest computer to ship with Apple Silicon inside of it because it's already being heavily tested among developers. Either way, there's still a lot of things to learn about the future of Apple Silicon Macs, including just how well Apple is going to handle this hardware and software transition. However, we won't have to wait too much longer to get a glimpse of these first machines with Apple's One More Thing event coming this Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Date Time. So if you found this video helpful, be sure to leave me a like. If you want to learn even more about these future computers, including some coverage after Apple's event, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to help the channel out in any way, check out some of the affiliate links in the description below. I will leave some accessories to the Mac. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.